Hi, scholars, and welcome to Miss Imani B's classroom. I'm Miss B or Miss Imani, and welcome to another episode of Miss B Reads. Today, we are going to finish the first chapter of the Stories Julian Tells, and I know that you are so excited to see what happens next because I am also super duper excited. But before we begin, I realized I was asking you all about character traits, but I didn't really explain them. So we're gonna travel a little bit to kind of break down these character traits. Let's go. Much better. So I realized that I'm reading this Julian story to you. I'm getting us excited. I'm asking you about character traits, but I didn't even really tell you what character traits are. I didn't really go over character traits with you. And honestly, that is not fair. So I thought it'd be better to kind of go over these character traits with you so that you kind of know what it is we're looking for as we continue to read this book. So character traits describe what a character looks like or what their personality is like. So when we're talking about what they look like, those are their physical or their outside traits. And when we're talking about what their personality is like, those are their inside traits. So when we're thinking about outside traits, it's how you would describe the character. Their hair color, their hairstyle, their size, their skin color, if they're an animal, if they're other, so if they're like a boy, a girl, they have freckles, braces, glasses. But for Julian, and like how he responds to conflict and all of that, I want us to think about his inside traits, what we can't see, but what we learn from what he says, what he does, what he feels, and what he thinks. Now, not all character traits are the same, scholars. There are positive character traits, there are negative character traits, and there are neutral character traits. Neutral means they're not positive or negative, they're just neutral. So, some examples of positive character traits are caring, nice, friendly, determined, helpful, respectful, honest, fair, brave, independent, persistent. Persistent means you keep going and you don't give up. Negative traits, some examples of some negative traits are they can be mean, bossy, cruel, impatient, lazy, evil. Missy Money. Unkind, dishonest, or mischievous. Ooh, okay. And then the neutral traits, shy, adventurous, quiet, talkative, scared. And so all of these depend on what the character says, what they do, how they feel, and things like that. So when we're thinking about Julian and we're thinking about when he faces the conflict, we got to think about what does he do? So far, let's review what was the conflict? Right. The conflict was that he and Huey ate a lot of their dad's pudding that he was making for their mom. And his dad told them, don't eat it, right? And so when that happened and they realized that they did they face the conflict? Did they just stand up and say, you know what? I did it. I'm going to own up to it. No, they didn't. What did they do? Right. They ran away. So what that tells me is that I could say, when they face conflict, they run away. And so because they run away, that makes me feel like one of Julian's character traits could be that he's scared because he doesn't face his problems. Instead, he runs away. What is a character trait looking at this list or thinking, what other character traits could you give Julian thinking about the story so far? What other character traits could you give Julian? I like that. Yeah. So we're going to keep reading because I know you want to know what happened. And remember where we left off. Julian and Huey were hiding under the bed. And their dad was looking for them. And their dad was really, really angry. So let's see what happens. Are you ready? Let's see what happens. All right, scholars, let's get back into the story. All right, so this is where we left off. All right, let's go from here. Huey whispered to me, "I'm scared." We heard my father walking slowly through the rooms. "Huey," he called. "Julian." We could see his feet. He was coming into our room. He lifted the bedspread. There was his face, and his eyes like black lightning. He grabbed us by the legs and pulled. "Stand up," he said. We stood. Oh my goodness. "What do you have to tell me?" he said. We went outside," Huey said, "and when we came back, the pudding was gone." "Then why were you hiding under the bed?" my father said. We didn't say anything. We looked at the floor. "I can tell you one thing," he said. "There is going to be some beating here now. There is going to be some whipping." The curtains at the window were shaking. Huey was holding my hand. "Go into the kitchen," my father said. "Right now." We went into the kitchen. "Come here, Huey," my father said. Huey walked toward him, his hands behind his back. "See these eggs?" my father said. He cracked them and put the yolks in a pan and set the pan on the counter. He stood a chair by the counter. "Stand up here," he said to Huey. Huey stood on the chair by the counter. "Now it's time for your beating," my father said. Huey started to cry. His tears fell in with the egg yolks. "Take this," my father said. My father handed him the egg beater. "Now beat those eggs," he said. "And I want this to be a good beating." "Oh," Huey said. He stopped crying and he beat the egg yolks. "Now you, Julian, stand here," my father said. I stood on the chair by the table. "I hope you're ready for your whipping." I didn't answer. I was afraid to say yes or no. "Here," he said, and he set the egg whites in front of me. "I want these whipped and whipped well." "Yes, sir," I said and started whipping. My father watched us. My mother came into the kitchen and watched us. After a while, Huey said, "This is hard work." "That's too bad," my father said. "Your beating's not done." And he added sugar and cream and lemon juice to Huey's pan and put the pan on the stove, and Huey went on beating. "My arm hurts from whipping," I said. "That's too bad," my father said. "Your whipping's not done." So I whipped, and Huey beat and beat. "Hold that beater in the air, Huey," my father said. Huey held it in the air. "See?" my father said. "A good pudding stays on the beater. It's thick enough now. Your beating's done." Then he turned to me. "Let's see those egg whites, Julian," he said. They were puffed up and fluffy. "Congratulations, Julian," he said. "Your whipping's done." He mixed the egg whites into the pudding himself. Then he passed the pudding to my mother. "Oh, a wonderful pudding," she said. "Would you like some, boys?" "No, thank you," he said. She picked up a spoon. "Why, this tastes like a whole raft of lemons," she said. "This tastes like a night on the sea." Wow, scholars. And to think, if Julian and Huey hadn't eaten the pudding, they wouldn't have had to do all that. But do you think they learned their lesson? And what lesson do you think they learned? Mm. Okay, now I want us to go back and think about those character traits we talked about earlier, right? What do you think would be a good character trait for Julian or Huey? What do you oh, you need to see them again? You need to see the character traits again? Okay. Let's look at them real quick. All right, and we're back. So, what character traits do you think would define Julian? Now that we watched the whole thing, Julian got in trouble a couple of times. He faced a conflict. His father asked him what happened to the pudding. Think about what he did. What character traits would you put for Julian? Look here. What character traits? Mm-hmm. Okay. I see that. Okay. Well, scholars. Well, we're going to keep doing this work. We're going to keep doing this work because this is good work and we are working really hard. But now, the next time we meet, we are going to actually read one of my favorite chapters, chapter 2, which is called Catalog Cats. What even is a catalog cat? I don't know. I guess you'll have to tune back in next time to see what it is. Until next time, scholars, bye!